Hello, I'm Frankie. On the last leg of this adventure, we got a tour of the overnight ferry that runs daily from Osaka to Ehime. We immediately hopped on a bus to Matsuyama, and when we arrived, all that was open was a cafe by the JR station. Then we threw our stuff in a coin locker and went to explore the city a bit. We took the tram to the famous Dogo Onsen, the oldest onsen in Japan. At the Dogo tram station, I was excited to see the Bochan train, which was one of the things I really wanted to do in the city. It's an old locomotive from 1888. People can actually ride it through the city, and apparently the conductors dress as they did 100 years ago. Unfortunately for us, it wasn't running though, but it was very cool to look at. Then we headed over to the Dogo Onsen's main building, which is currently under construction. A lot of tourist destinations are under construction right now, which makes sense because they would want to do the work while international tourists aren't around, so it's ready for everyone when they return. We made a reservation when we arrived, which didn't take long, so we waited about 20 minutes and explored the building across the street. So for the history, it all starts with the story of a bird, more specifically an egret. It had an injured leg and went to soak in the hot spring water that was gushing from the rocks. It soaked its leg every day, and its leg healed, and the egret became stronger than ever. The people noticed this and tried soaking in the water as well. They found that whatever injuries or illnesses they had were relieved, at least a little bit, by the hot spring waters, and then bathing in the hot spring became a regular thing. The Dogo Onsen has over 3,000 years of history. And you know what the best part is? They're tattoo friendly. Some onsen are becoming more relaxed these days, but they might only accept small tattoos. I don't have small tattoos though, I have big ones. I don't expect the rules to change just for me, don't get me wrong, but I was super excited that this incredibly historical place would let me in. Ooh woo. Even at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, it was pretty crowded. You might need to rent a towel, but there is soap and shampoo inside, at least in the ladies' bath, so you won't need to buy theirs unless you want the soap as a souvenir. There's a souvenir towel as well. It was 400 yen to bathe in the main building. We took a walk around the area after our bath and checked out the other buildings. Dogo Onsen has 3 bathhouses, the main building, Asuka no Yu, and Tsubaki no Yu. Aside from Dogo Onsen, Matsuyama is also famous for Mikan oranges. We found a nice little shop that offered a tasting set of orange juices, which I got, and orange beer, which my friend Kendall got. Next, we made our way to Matsuyama Castle. There is a cable car and a chairlift, which you'll see later, but we chose violence for some reason. Just kidding, it was nice exercise. Lots of steps though, I'm not joking. Maybe I'm biased because I really like this city, but Matsuyama Castle is really cool. Don't quote me on this, but I think even abroad in Japan said it's one of his favorite castles. For starters, you get some amazing views of the city once you get on the castle grounds, because it's on top of a mountain. It even has 1 star in the Japan Michelin Guide for the views. It's also one of those 12 original castles I keep mentioning, although some parts have been rebuilt due to things like lightning and arson. It's been about a month since I went on this trip, so I had to Google what the admission fee was because I forgot, but it was 520 yen, about $5, a tiny price for such a grand place with a Michelin star view. I'm kind of being sarcastic, but I think the view speaks for itself, and it does get better. As a side note, the sign about no graffiti made me really sad because that probably means someone was caught doing graffiti here. How rude. So anyway, back to the castle. It was built in the 1600s. It's very complex. 21 of the 40 original structures remain. In comparison, if you know anything about Himeji Castle, which is gigantic, that one has 80 structures. But it's not on a mountain, so yeah, they're both cool in different ways. Matsuyama Castle is often called an impregnable castle. For starters, it's high up on a mountain, so anyone attacking the castle would be really tired by the time they got up there. There was no chairlift in the 1600s. There are so many gates, so many stone walls. The entrance was also sort of concealed, so by the time the enemy figured out the layout of the grounds, a lot of them would already be goners. There were also stone drops as well. Ouch. They have a short VR experience that you can do in two parts. One gives you what's basically a drone view of the castle, and the second part is a simulation of an attack. It's not gory though, so if you have kids or you yourself are squeamish, no worries, there's no blood. It just goes to show how hard the castle was to attack. There was also an English translation for it. There are some shops on the ground selling souvenirs and snacks. In Japan, souvenirs often are snacks, but I mean shops with fresh food as well. There are mikan on a lot of the goods because that's what Matsuyama is famous for, and there's also an adorable mascot called Mikan. I always love to try soft cream when it's available. Usually there are seasonal flavors, but there's also almost always a flavor in whatever the regional delicacy is. It's not always appetizing, but you can't go wrong with orange, unless of course you hate oranges. You monster. We took the chairlift down. The round trip is 510 yen. The chairlift does look kind of sketchy, and it is really bouncy, but for some reason I love chairlifts, even though I'm scared of heights. The cable car is also an option though, and they usually also accommodate strollers and wheelchairs if needed. I don't think it's necessary to run off the chairlift when you get to the base, but I do it anyway. The building we walked through was the ropeway station, but there was some nice artwork in there. Then I was confronted by my enemy, the QP baby. There's something so suspicious about this baby. Do you agree? These statues are Botchan and Madonna. They're characters in a novel by the renowned author Soseki Natsume, one of the founders of modern Japanese literature. Can you believe we're still on day one? After all that exploring, we went to check into our Airbnb. The room itself was pretty spacious, but I did have to vacuum the entire apartment when we arrived because I could feel lots of dirt on my feet, and no. The futons looked clean though, and they were pretty comfortable. The room can fit up to 5 people, which means there were extra futons in the closet, and we stacked them. Kendall has a friend who lives in Ehime, so we met him and grabbed dinner at a local izakaya. The first dish you're seeing is called katsuo no tataki, the famous regional dish in Kochi, which is the prefecture right under Ehime, under/next to. The fish is also called skipjack tuna or bonito. It's lightly broiled or grilled on the outside layer, and it tastes great with just a bit of salt. One of the famous dishes for Ehime is called tai meshi, aka sea bream rice. A raw egg would normally be mixed in there, but I took my portion before the egg was mixed in because of my intolerance. The food was all amazing. And finally on to day 2. A lot of cafes in Japan open around 11, but if you can find ones that open before then, they usually do a morning set which includes a coffee or tea, toast, maybe a hard-boiled egg and some other sides for a great price, usually just a few hundred yen, aka a few dollars or pounds. We rented bicycles from a really cheap place, not the best quality, but we got around town well enough. We headed right back over to the Dogo Onsen area and made a reservation at one of the other buildings that had private rooms. This building is called Asuka no Yu. The bath is still shared, but you get 90 minutes in a private room, as the name suggests. I've spent most of my time in Japan thinking I would never be able to go to hot springs because of my tattoos, but now that I found a number of tattoo-friendly ones, I'm kind of obsessed with onsen. The room was a classic Japanese-style one with tatami mats and a small table. They also provided us with yukata. We first took our bath, which I can't show. Then we went back to the room for tea and wagashi, a traditional Japanese sweet that was included in our reservation. There was also a really nice lounge area that's only accessible for those who rent the rooms. It's possible to just use the bath only though for 600 yen. I spent some time admiring the architecture, the artwork, and people watching from the balcony. Before we knew it, our 90 minutes were up, and then they threw us out on the street. That is a joke. Anyway, we really enjoyed the room and the experience. There's a shotengai, or shopping street, right in the onsen area, and there are loads of delicious sweet shops. We spotted this pudding place that was decorated with onsen cats, and it was adorable. Then we made our way over to Dogo Park. Isn't this cool? I had never seen a haiku box before. You just submit your poems there, and they're judged periodically. There was also a girl who came up to us and was really excited to practice English. She said she was studying in Malaysia and her classes were online at the moment. She wanted to get a picture of us. I can't remember if we all took one together, but she posted the one of me and Kendall on Instagram. Dogo Park is really pretty. We also saw this umbrella installation, and I'll show you it again later when it's lit up in the night. The park has a nice viewing point, so we made our way up several slopes and sets of steps once more. All this exercise was great, I repeat, and as always, it was totally worth it for the view. We were also there at the perfect time to wait for the sun to set. And on to the home stretch, our third and final day. We did have a full day, sort of. Our bus back to the ferry was leaving around 8:30 p.m. If you remember from earlier in the video, I mentioned that mikan are one of the famous things in Ehime, so we wanted to do mikan gari, orange picking. We had some trouble finding a place in Matsuyama, so we got on the train and headed towards the sea. It was still technically in Matsuyama, but I found this place on Google Maps that was on a mountain, and it looked really pretty. We ended up having some really sweet interactions with locals. We were hungry when we arrived, so we tried to find a cafe. The first one said it was open on Google Maps, but it was actually closed. The second place was the same, but there was an older lady in the parking lot with her dog, and I guess she was the owner because she told us it was closed that day. But then she unlocked the door and handed us each a slice of cake for no charge. Then we found a kissaten, a coffee shop, and two elderly ladies were chatting inside, and they were, understandably, surprised to see us walk in. One was the owner and the other was her friend. She gave us each a coffee and said she didn't have any food prepared, so she gave us a bag of cheddar cheese chips. Her friend sadly informed us that the orange farm we were looking for was closed. Then when we finished the coffee and chips, and also this seaweed, like salty seaweed tea that she gave us, the owner said that it was free of charge. The feels, why were they so nice? We did still have to eat lunch though, so we went to a family mart and ate by the beach. I gotta say, all the people we met in Matsuyama were so nice. There are, of course, nice people in big cities too, but there's just something about the countryside. Matsuyama is a city, yes, but we ended up in a more rural part of it. Something else about the countryside is that trains and buses can run really infrequently. I keep learning this lesson the hard way. It is essential to check train schedules. When we got to the platform, it was going to be 45 minutes until the next one, which is not the worst scenario, because in some cases, if you're in a really rural area, the trains might be every hour, every 2 hours, or maybe even just a couple trains passing through each day. Since we love steps so much, we also went to Isaniwa Shrine right by the onsen. I cannot get over all the great views that Matsuyama has to offer. We also came across Yu Shrine. Yu is the word for hot water, and the shrine is dedicated to protecting Dogo Onsen's waters. From Yu Shrine, you can also find the Sky Walkway, which gives you a nice overhead view of Dogo's main building. They also have a free foot bath. It may sound strange if you're not familiar with them, but it's so nice to take a break and rest your feet in the hot water. As our time in the city was coming to a close, we went souvenir shopping and also stopped at this shop that was selling all sorts of sesame products, and the smell of the roasted sesame was heavenly. We'd been eyeing this place for 2 days already. We got some buns with red bean inside and mochi with some kind of toasted sesame paste on top. Everything was amazing, so I can't really choose a favorite. In that shop, there was also a lady who approached us and told us that she lived in LA for 30 years, but had just come back to Japan recently. Interactions like this are very sweet, and they are common. I just rarely get them on camera because I don't want to kill the mood by asking them if it's okay to film them. I will work on my shyness, though. Going back to the steam clock at Dogo Station. Is this a steam clock? I don't know. It puts on a show every now and then. While we were waiting for it to start, we soaked in yet another foot bath. It was so cool to see how the clock opened up and got really tall and all these little characters appeared. The bathing people were my favorite. For our final meal, we went to another izakaya-style place that specializes in gyoza, aka dumplings. Then we got back on the ferry. I know that the first ferry ride looked totally empty. I guess I did a good job at avoiding people in my shots, but I realized it did make the boat look haunted. So, oops. We also did stay up sort of late compared to the other passengers, so that adds to the ghostly feel. That kind of happened with the ride back as well, because there are no people here, but I assure you, there were many more people on the ferry bound for Osaka, probably because we were arriving on a Friday morning. I bet weekends are pretty crowded. We got the same single rooms, but the ride back was slightly cheaper at 5,760 yen. Alright, well, thank you very much for following along on this journey. It was the first time in almost 2 years I'd left the Kansai region, and my first time on the island of Shikoku. Unless you count the time I accidentally drove into Tokushima because I missed the last exit on the highway. Then I had to go over the bridge again. I was there for less than 2 minutes, so can we please forget that $15 mistake? Thank you. Okay. This was such a long video and my voice will probably be gone tomorrow. Have a great day or night. Bye!